Greetings, everybody. This is Winnie, Wriggle, and welcome back to Direwolf20's 1.16 mod pack. We're in episode 23. It's been a while. Welcome back. I took a little sabbatical from video making, had to take care of some personal stuff and family things. Also, never hurts to take a little mental health break as a creator. Kind of get you revved back up when you come back, get those creative juices going. Speaking of creativity, today we're actually going to get into one of my favorite mods, and that is the Create mod. But first, let's take a little tour for anyone who hasn't been here recently, including myself. So this is our base apartment. This is where I lay my little head when I need to rest from a hard day at Minecrafting. We're on the second level down in our base, and this entire level is actually complete. We have our workshop area, the teleporter room. I don't even know where's this go right now? Oh, to the end. Apparently I was doing things at the end. That's nice. We also have our immersive engineering area with our blast furnace and coke oven. The mob farm, which does wonderful things for providing us with materials that we need. Another grotto on the end. And I think I added, yes, another secret stairway upwards to the next level. Oh, and it's dark. I probably should have taken a nap. Whatever. This is our mostly industrial foregoing room with access to the power being produced by the windmills up above. More grottos at the end. Both our undergarden portal and our nether portal are built over here into the side of the wall. Become our portal area. Hey, Mr. Pig. What's up? Yeah, that's right. Go back. Thanks for the visit. We also have our, that's machine room access. The machine room, the power room, where we're getting power from trees, namely tree oil from the thermal expansion mod. Our enchanting area, which I still haven't done anything with the room behind this, but, you know, I'll think of something at some point. Woo. More little windy staircases down. Back to our second level. The third level down, I think last time I showed folks the storage room, which is where we keep all of our bulk resources. And when I was doing that, I also decided I had to have a place to keep our food and our food making. And so this is our kitchen / pub area. There's also a little secret stairway that goes out of the pub up into our living area, which I love. I love Minecraft. Since the last episode, I have also made a place to put some of our items from Cyclic. So when we messed around with Cyclic in the last episode, we used the melting and solidification chambers to make crystallized obsidian and crystallized amber in order to craft one of the charms that I'm wearing. The Charm Talisman, which keeps us safe from poison, wither, fire, and damage from falling into the void, which is awesome. I've also done a little bit of extending the decorating on this level. I came around the edge with a little bit of the weathered limestone, and then around this edge with a little bit of the marble. And then, of course, in the very bottom of our base here, we have the startup section for our Botania activities, which apparently I need to feed these guys a little more coal. We'll get to that. It's another glorious morning in Minecraft. Let's take a look up top. Ah, this is our beautiful ravine base where it all started. So we did a little bit of construction on the top here to bring the pathway down. So I have ways up on both sides. We have our animal barns over here towards the back of the base. How are you guys doing? Yep. And then, of course, our glorious, amazing windmill, which is still producing power at a fairly amazing rate for being intro-level power. And when we get into the Create mod today, we're going to talk a little bit about other options for introductory power, especially for power that can be used by Create. Over near our barns, we have all of our farming area, quote unquote. This is basically just a bunch of botany pots with all the things we need to grow growing in them, which is mighty convenient. I do have plans someday for incorporating these all into a greenhouse so we can include them in our storage system. think once we get to the refined storage solution, that'll be the time to do that. And then, of course, last but certainly not least, our starter base treehouse. So that is our glorious ravine base so far. And today we're going to make another area, and that area is going to be used for the Create mod. One of the first and most important things to know about the Create mod is, although there is not a book that's associated with this mod, there is, however, some of the most amazing documentation ever provided for a Minecraft mod. If you hover over any component in the Create mod and press W and hold it down, it brings up an interactive help system, and it walks you through all of the different items that are related to the item you pick. Create has items that let you produce something called rotational force, and you'll use that rotational force along with stress units in order to turn things. And it's that turning that gives you the automation that you need to make all the components in Create work. As you might have guessed, there are things that produce a minor amount of rotational force, like a water wheel. If you want to produce more rotational force, you add more water wheels. In addition to the rotation, these items also have the ability to put up with a certain amount of kinetic stress. That means that their ability to turn something is going to depend on how strong they're able to turn something. So this is like the difference between a merry-go-round at the playground that you can just run around and turn versus the amount of force that's needed to turn something like a carousel or a giant Ferris wheel. So the amount of kinetic stress that an object needs in order to move may be different. So let's talk about a couple of examples that we're actually going to try to make today. One is the mechanical press. We'll need to make one of these in order to produce some of the crafting items for Create. So you can think of this as one of the Create's crafting mechanisms. It takes ingots and turns them into plates. The amount of kinetic stress, or power, if you will, that's needed to run a mechanical press is pretty minor. So we could get away with running a mechanical press with something like a water wheel or two. So let's take a look at the materials that we're going to need to get started with Create. It's very simple. You need a little bit of iron, a little bit of andesite, and some wood. Basically, I've used wood to create some buttons and slabs. I also have some iron ingots. We're going to use buckets of water because we're using water wheels to create our rotational force. And then some glass so we can see what we're doing, and some stone so that we have some building blocks. Okay, for crafting in Create, we're going to need to start with one of the basic components that are required for creating anything in Create, and that is andesite alloy. So it's just a combination of iron nuggets and andesite. So we're actually going to make an entire stack of that. It'll come in handy. We also want to make our water wheels, of course. That requires a large cogwheel and some slabs. To make a large cogwheel, we need buttons, planks, and some of that andesite alloy. And I think we'll just make some 8 of those to start with. And then let's make some small cogwheels while we're here. Maybe 2 sets. And of course, we're going to need some shafts. That's how you connect everything together. And those are just 2 andesite alloy on top of one another. And then we'll also need a gearbox. A gearbox is, think of this as just a way to make a shaft turn a corner. To make them, we're going to need an andesite casing and a bunch of cogwheels. So an andesite casing, very simple, some planks, andesite alloy, and wood. Hopefully I have some of that. Yes, I do. And yeah, you never know how many of these you're going to need. And then to make the gearbox, of course, we just combine them with the cogwheels. Now that we have some of the crafting components made, let's make the items we actually want to use. So the first thing we want to make are a couple of water wheels. And I think we'll start with 4. Fairly straightforward. We also want to make a mechanical press because we want to have something that uses the rotational force that those water wheels are going to produce. So a mechanical press is fairly simple. It's a couple of cogwheels, an andesite casing, andesite alloy, and a block of iron. 1 mechanical press. Ta-da! We're also going to want to make an encased fan because I want to show you some other options for producing rotational force. If we combine an encased fan with a source of fire, like a campfire or a bucket of lava, we can also produce rotational force. Once we have set up our mechanical press, we'll be able to make some of the crafting components for an encased fan. Specifically for the propeller, we're going to need iron sheets. I'm going to leave some of our crafting components behind and let's head over to the create area, which is going to be over here on this side of our ravine, which is very dark. I figured since we already have a water source coming down here, we would just make use of it for our purposes. And it doesn't go anywhere. It actually stops right there, which is even more perfect. So we want our water wheels paddles to catch the water. If I just set it down by right clicking, you'll notice that that's the wrong way. We want the paddles to face the other direction. It's very easy to do. If we just hold shift while we place them, it turns around the wheel. We're getting rotation from this, and if I add 2 more water wheels to that, we'll get a cumulative amount of kinetic force from those 3 water wheels. There is a way to make these guys go a little faster, and that is to add water that also pushes across the top. So what we want to do is increase the speed a little bit and hopefully get a few more stress units out of making the wheels go faster. So I'm going to put some glass around the wheel to make a structure that will hold the water back and allow me to pour the water in a way that it will also move the wheels in the direction that they're already spinning. So we want to put the water here. And that does seem to be making it go a tiny bit faster. So we'll get our other 2 buckets of water. That's not water. There we go. So I believe that the wheel is spinning slightly faster than it was. You can also get additional rotational force by doing the same thing underneath. We might have to work that out off camera. For now, we have a water wheel that is providing rotational force, which is excellent. So we'll want to access the rotational force, so we'll break the glass block that's right next to the water wheel. So we can use simple shafts in order to bring the rotational force out where we can use it. The other item we might want to create is a pair of engineer's goggles. So in order to do that, we need string, a golden sheet, and a couple of pieces of glass. Okay, so that'll be the first thing we craft, actually, once we set this up. So our mechanical press, keep putting torches where I need to set blocks. Our mechanical press, I believe, just hooks just like that. You can see that there's a shaft that just runs through the middle of it. And if I put a solid block underneath and then grab a piece of gold and throw it on the block, and throw it on the block, and throw it on the block. Oh, my magnet is, there we go. Yeah, now we have a gold plate. Then we made the advancement, press goes bonk. Exciting. So let's make our engineer's goggles now that we have that. They will help us immensely. Ta-da! If we stick them on our head, not only are they an attractive and cool accessory, I feel like Naruto. Now, when we look at the water wheels, you can see we have a message that is generator stats. So right now we are producing or have the capacity to have 128 stress units at the current speed. We want to create some iron plates so that we can make our encased fan. So I'm actually just going to set the whole stack on there. And let's see how many of those it'll do. Experimenting. 1. Ha! Okay. You can, of course, automate this with conveyor belts. I find it very cool that it senses an object below it that can be pressed. So now let's make our encased fan by making the propeller and then the fan itself. Yay! The encased fan is another source of rotational force, and all it needs underneath it is a source of fire. So we need to put the fan facing down. The easiest way to do that is to put a block above where you want the fan to be placed. And then don't shift, just place the fan against the block that's above it. And if I can't see because of the fire, but you'll see that the fan is on the bottom of the block. And the gear shaft is on the top, and that's how you know you've placed it correctly. When I put a shaft and give it a redstone signal, you'll see we get rotational force. And I think if I get close enough, you can see that our one campfire under one fan gives us 64 stress units of power, which is still plenty enough to run our mechanical press. Now let's use a couple of things like gearboxes to move that rotational force around this corner. Gears and gearboxes. Give me that. So I'm going to stick a gearbox on there. Nope. I'm going to stick a vertical gearbox on there so that the force comes up through the box and then out along this side. So we add some shafts there and then put a regular gearbox, which is horizontal, and then a shaft. You can see that now we have moved the rotational force down this way, around this corner, and back to our mechanical press. So now we can still use the mechanical press using an encased fan with a campfire. So the encased fan requires the metal plates to be crafted, but one of the advantages is that it takes up much less room than the assembly required for a water wheel. So if you need to just set up your press area in a very easy way, you can do that with the encased fan. In fact, you can make this very efficient by using, somewhere is that vertical gearbox. There we go. We still need a vertical gearbox, but I believe I can just set the mechanical press right next to it. And you'll see that it is getting the stress units required to operate it. Oop, and if I put a piece of iron down, our mechanical press works. So we have a very compact way of producing kinetic energy in order to turn the wheels and cogs that are needed to run our mechanical press. So those are the fundamentals of Create. You are producing rotational force, either using water wheels or an encased fan, and then you are moving that force or that energy through mechanical means in order to operate your other machinery. Okay, now that we've learned how to generate kinetic energy, let's clean this area up and make a little progress in terms of automation. Okay, that's much more like it. The space is cleaned up and ready for us to automate some stuff in Create. So I just used our limestone bricks available from Create, like I've done in the rest of the ravine base, and made this corner a little more presentable. I did lower the water wheels one block, and instead of having the water go across the top, the water now goes across the bottom to give us an increase in speed. I think if I take it off F1, you can see now we're up to 192 stress units from those 3 water wheels, which should be perfect for what we need. So what we're going to do is we're going to take some gearboxes, some vertical gearboxes, because I actually, now that I've lowered the water wheel one block, I need to actually raise the shaft that's going to drive our mechanical press. So I'm using vertical gearboxes to do that. A vertical gearbox takes rotation in on one side and puts it out on the top and the bottom. So you can actually change the elevation of your rotation. And then we're just going to use a simple shaft out here. I'm kind of keeping it not compact so you can see the rotation of what's happening. And then of course we're going to put our mechanical press up here, which takes up 96 stress units to operate. Now we know that the mechanical press, if we put an item below it manually, we'll press it. But what we want to do is automate that. And the way we do that in Create is with mechanical belts. A mechanical belt is made using dried kelp. And we have a kelp farm up in our botany pot. So I just dried a couple of stacks of kelp and made us some belts. Now, in order to use a belt, you have to have rotation for that belt. I'm going to use another vertical gearbox in order to get rotation down at the belt level that I need it. And I'm actually going to use a couple of shafts. And then this time I'm going to use a regular gearbox because a regular gearbox helps you turn a corner. So think of it like this. Vertical gearboxes help you turn corners vertically, and a regular gearbox helps you turn corners horizontally. And I don't think we need one on both ends, but I think it looks cool, so that's the way I'm going to do it. And we want the belts to run right underneath our mechanical press. So I need to bring these out one more block. And then to set up a belt, you just right-click on the starting point and then right-click on the ending point, and you can see the little particle effects will tell you whether or not it will connect. If it's green, it will connect. So now we have a mechanical belt turning. So it's going to take items from this side and move it to the other side. And so we want to be able to put items on the belt and then pick items up off the belt. One of the simplest ways to do this is with something called a funnel. We're going to use the regular andesite funnels because they're cheap. They just use andesite alloy and kelp. Funnels are used to move items in and out of inventories like chests, and they're one of the most useful things you can make in your early Create automation. So I'm going to put chests at either end of these. I'm going to set them up on blocks just for a little decorative. So we put a chest here, and we put a chest here, and then we're going to put a funnel attached to each of those. One there, and one there. And if I put items in this chest, the funnel will distribute those items on the belt one at a time, and then our mechanical press will process that item if it can be processed. So if I put a stack of iron ingots, you can see that the funnel pushes the ingots onto the belt. The mechanical press comes down. There's our iron sheet, and it goes into the other funnel, and we can pick it up in the chest. Super simple Create automation, and for not a whole lot in terms of materials. And with our automation goals accomplished, I think that's everything we have time for today. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed the episode, please leave a like. It helps me out and I appreciate it. If you'd like to keep up with what's going on the channel, don't hesitate to subscribe. And remember, as always, you are the shiny stuff that awesome is made of. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.